Let's talk about one of the most frustrating things that can happen with a car. You know the feeling. You hop in, you're ready to go, you turn the key, and just nothing. Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive deep into one of the most common culprits for that exact problem and show you how to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, that silence is just the worst, isn't it? That moment when you expect the engine to fire up and instead you get absolutely nothing. Your first thought might be, oh no, is the battery dead? And it could be. But a lot of the time, the real problem is a tiny, pretty cheap part that's actually surprisingly easy to check.
And that part is the starter relay. You know, it's one of those unsung heroes of your car. It doesn't get all the glory like the starter motor or the battery, but trust me, without this little guy doing its job, your engine is going nowhere. Think of it as the bouncer at the club door for your engine's power. So what is this thing really? Well, at its heart, it's just a switch, but it's a really clever, heavy-duty switch. Its whole job is to take that tiny little electrical signal you create when you turn your key and use it to unleash the massive flood of power needed to actually crank your engine over. But why do you even need it? Why not just have the key control the starter directly? Well, it's a tale of two very different circuits. The one from your ignition key is low power, right? It uses small, thin wires. But the starter motor, that thing is an absolute beast. It needs a huge amount of electrical current running through big, thick, heavy-duty wires. The starter relay is the perfect bridge between them, letting that tiny, safe circuit control the big, powerful one without melting anything. Okay, so how can you tell if this little hero has gone bad? Well, your car will usually give you some pretty specific clues. Let's get into the telltale signs you should be looking out for. The number one most common symptom, like 90% of the time, is this. You turn the key and you get complete and utter silence. Not a click, not a whir, not a groan, just nothing. Dead air. Now, while that total no start is the big one, there are a couple of other things to watch for. You might get an intermittent problem where it works fine one day, then gives you nothing the next. That usually happens when the metal contacts inside the relay get worn out and just can't make a good connection every time. And in some really rare cases, the starter might actually stay on even after the engine's running. That's a scary one, and it happens when those internal contacts literally melt and fuse together. All right. Before you point the finger directly at the relay, it's always a good idea to rule out a few other, even more common issues. These can give you the exact same symptoms, so you always want to check the simple stuff first. So, what's on that checklist? First, the battery. Is it just dead or weak? A quick check with a voltmeter can tell you that. Next, pop the hood and look at the battery terminals. Are they loose? Are they covered in that crusty, corroded gunk? Both can stop power in its tracks. And finally, check your fuses. A tiny blown fuse in the ignition or relay circuit will shut the whole operation down. Okay, so you've checked the battery, it's strong. You've cleaned the terminals, they're tight. The fuses look good. Now it's time to put the relay itself to the test. And the great news is, you've got a few really simple ways to do this, from super easy to a little more hands-on. Let's kick things off with what is, by far, the easiest and safest method out there. We'll call it the relay swap test. The best part? Pretty much anyone can do this, and you don't need a single special tool. Here's how simple this is. First, you're going to find your fuse box, check your owner's manual if you're not sure where it is, and locate the starter relay. Now look around in that same box for another relay that looks exactly the same, with the same part number on it. A lot of the time, the horn relay is a perfect match. Then you just swap them. Pull them both out, put the horn relay where the starter relay was, and try to start the car. If it fires right up, boom, you've found your problem. That old relay is toast. Now, let's say you can't find an identical relay to swap, or you just really want to be 100% sure. Well, if you're feeling a bit more adventurous, you can try the jumper wire test. I gotta give you a word of caution here, though. You need to be a little more careful with this one. For this test, you'll turn the key to the on position, but don't try to start it. Then, pull the starter relay out. Look at the little diagram that's usually printed on the side of it to find the two switch pins. They're often labeled as pin 3 and 5, or sometimes 30 and 87. Then, you just take a small piece of wire and briefly touch the two corresponding slots in the fuse box. If the starter motor suddenly cranks, that proves the relay itself was the broken link in the chain. But again, remember that warning. When you do this, sometimes you get sparks right there at the fuse box, which can kind of mess up those metal contacts if you're not careful. So it works, but you have to do it quickly and with a steady hand. All right, now for those of you who have a multimeter and know how to use it, there's an even more scientific way to test the relay once it's completely out of the car. It's really a three-part check. First, you'll test for continuity across the relay's coil pins to see if the internal electromagnet is intact. If that's good, you'll actually apply 12 volts from your battery to those same coil pins. You should hear a little click. That's the switch closing. For the final step, while that coil is energized, you check for continuity on the other set of pins, the switch pins. If your meter beeps, showing a complete circuit, the relay is good. If it stays silent, you've found a failed relay.
And there you go. From a simple swap that takes 30 seconds to a precise multimeter check, you are now totally equipped to solve one of the most common puzzles your car can throw at you. Seriously, this knowledge can save you a ton of time, a lot of money on a mechanic, and just so much frustration.
So the next time you turn that key and get nothing but silence, you won't feel helpless. You'll know exactly what to check. The only question left is that little relay your culprit? Now you know how to find out.